Senator Clarkson is with us. She's just eating. And
I'm sorry, I'm just eating because we didn't have a chance to, as everybody knows. So I guess this is the draft you just sent us at 2:18, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I would like to put it on the screen if you could.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so new to the entire bill, two beverage category updates to note right off the bat. First, the fortified wine provisions have been removed from the bill throughout. So all of the amendments that were related to fortified wines going into the retail, sale, and distribution streams have been removed, and the status quo is maintained in the bill. Moving forward. The next beverage category note concerning amendments to the bill that have come up since yesterday evening. The cider provisions that the committee has reviewed before have been put into the bill. So there is a definition for ciders. This new definition is implemented in 3 sections in Title VII that allow ciders first to be served in equal volume with malt beverages at things like festivals and for purposes of samples and flights. And finally, there is an update. Try to pull this up. There we go. Sorry if this is giving anyone a headache. In section 421 of Title VII, concerning the taxes that are applied to ciders. So here you'll note in subdivision A1, capital B, ciders containing up to 7% of alcohol by volume will be taxed at the malt beverage low end rate, which is 26.5 cents per gallon. And those over 7% will be taxed at the high-end malt beverage and standard vinous beverage rate of 55 cents per gallon.
Is there any reason why it's not 6% rather than 7%?
The testimony that was briefly presented in House General when they took a look at this a few weeks ago was that 7% and below seems to be the somewhat standard alcohol by volume percentage for ciders in Vermont.
Okay.
And I'll note something. I'm going to have to send a 2.2 to the committee in this section because the next important piece to note is that ready to drink spirits beverages have been given their own taxation rate of $1.10 per gallon, which means I'm going to have to remove RTDs from this capital C subdivision. My apologies for not taking care of that before we got together. All right. The next set of notes to cover relate to the studies that will be conducted.
I noticed that fortified wines was still in the previous section up there, for along with malt beverages and wines. I thought I saw some up. Keep going up. All right. Well, if you've cleaned it up in every place, that's fine.
For 2.2, I'll go through and do another double check to make sure we haven't struck fortified wines anywhere or inserted it where it's not supposed to be. Fortified wines will still be all the way throughout Title VII in various locations.
Right.
I'm fairly certain that we caught all of them in the review over the last hour or so. Sorry for the warp speed scrolling here. All right. So in section 42, starting on page 41, and you see it in front of you, there are a series of reports, 3 reports that will be conducted by the Department of Liquor and Lottery, and 1 that will be conducted by the Joint Fiscal Office in conjunction with DLL. So the first is the RTD Spirits Beverage Study. This is going to be submitted on or before January 15th of 2025. That date was selected to immediately follow the year-end sales reporting by DLL for 2024. This will go to Ways and Means, House General, your committee, and Senate Finance. In general, it's going to concern the fiscal and economic impacts of privatizing the sale of ready-to-drink spirits beverages. The report shall analyze taxes imposed on RTDs by other control states, provide a recommendation for whether the tax rate on RTDs should be increased, decreased, or stay the same, that $1.10 per gallon rate. Analyze the department's annual sales report to determine retail sales and growth by beverage category. So that subdivision is a little bit broader than just RTDs, but the idea is that by analyzing the sales report by beverage category, the department will be able to show where there has been growth in the beverage categories and whether any gap has been made up once RTDs are no longer in that markup space by the department. Subdivision D, finally, examine any available sales data reflecting the impact of retail sale of ready-to-drink spirits beverages on the local craft beer industry in Vermont. For this particular report, is directed to solicit input from JFO, the Department of Taxes, and other stakeholders. Subsection B contains a fortified wine study that'll be due on January 15th of 2024. It'll go to House Ways and Means, House General, Senate, your committee, and Senate Finance. And this is going to be a report on the impact on state revenue of privatizing the sale of fortified wines, an examination of control state models that permit private sale of fortified wines up to 23% alcohol by volume. And finally, the current and historical volume of fortified wine sales by retailers that hold a fortified wines permit. So that last subdivision takes a look at the retail stream as it currently exists. The third study, this is a study on the direct consumer shipping of spirits. It'll be due in January of 2024. It'll be due to the exact same committees, and this is going to analyze the revenue impacts to the state and 802 retailers. I have a technical correction to make here, of direct-to-consumer shipping of spirits is authorized, or excuse me, if is correct. If direct-to-consumer shipping.
Why is it, I thought we were trying to get this teed up for 2023. Is this because the commissioner's study is not going to be done by January 2023?
Yes, and the commissioner, I'm sure, can speak to that, but the audit that DLL is conducting won't be wrapped up in time for this study to be submitted in January of 2023. So the date that was chosen is January of 2024.
What's the earliest, Commissioner, that you could have a report on this? Is there any chance it could be done before so that we could look at this next session?
Well, so what we just, the audit is a year program. It will start in July. We will have a 6-month report to give to the legislature. And then we'll have, once the audit year is done, we'll have another one to give at that point. The idea behind this is that audit is going to inform the study. So the audit is just going to be a way for us to really look at how we can set up a compliance program and how we can see what kinds of products are coming in, if the common carriers are IDing like they're supposed to, if the tax department is collecting taxes, and then we can use that information from that pilot program then to inform the further study that looks at the broader scope of the path forward for direct-to-consumer shipping.
Can we do an interim report back in 23, January 23? I mean, I look at this not only for collection of data, just for the parties to like get their more details together. I mean, I think there was some good points raised, and I'd like to, if there's an opportunity with, over the summer to get some further better thinking on this, I'd like to have some sort of at least interim report due in 2023, if not.
Or an update on where we are.
Yeah, we'll have a 6-month update on the pilot program, the audit program, for sure.
So Tucker, why don't we just put in an interim report covering the same kind of things in January of 23?
I will add a new subdivision that requires an interim report to be submitted concerning all of this information in January of 2023.
Great, thank you.
You got it. All right, so the last 3 components of that particular examination of the illegal direct-to-consumer shipping market that exists in Vermont, an analysis of the volume of DTC spirit sales in the states with legal markets, and finally, an analysis of the potential impact on distillers and the 802 outlets of permitting out-of-state manufacturers to acquire DTC shipping licenses. And that last piece is a recognition that by opening up the consumer shipping market, it's interstate, it's not just intrastate. The final piece here is the privatization study that you all discussed a bit earlier. And this is a JFO study conducted in conjunction with the Department of Liquor and Lottery. It would be due January 15th, 2024. It would go to the same list of committees that we've already been reviewing. In general, this is a report concerning the potential privatization of Vermont's alcoholic beverage market. The study shall examine the impact on state revenue, the taxation and enforcement models that could be used in a private market, and finally, recommendations for amending the state's regulatory structures to implement a fully privatized alcoholic beverage market. The one thing that I would flag about this is that since the primary responsibility is with JFO, that last piece, and I can't speak for anyone in the Joint Fiscal Office, might create some problems, recommending amendments to the state's regulatory structures to implement a fully privatized alcoholic beverage market. That could come perhaps directly from DLL, since this is done in conjunction with them.
Does this presume that there's going to be, what if they decide that they don't want to go to a fully privatized? Do they have to submit recommendations?
No, I mean, I think that it should be a report either way. I mean, a decision to stay the course with
Right.
maybe some changes, or a decision to
How about something like any appropriate recommendations? Just change the language to make it neutral, not have it be assuming that. It seems to read like they should come up with recommendations.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to assume either way. It should be neutral. It's really, I mean, we haven't had a report since the auditor's report.
I don't think this was done intentionally. I just think it needs to be cleaned up.
Well, I'm concerned that we have in this language of the various pieces, we have different dates between governing when we receive studies. One, in the first case, 25, because we talk about a 2-year study of the ready-to-drink model, and then it's a 24 for the other pieces. I think they all ought to come at one time, so that we take one comprehensive look at one point in time at this whole picture.
What's the rationale for doing the 20? I mean, I do want to do the 23 study on.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about
the one on 25. What's the What's the one on 25? Why is that delayed another year? Anybody?
That's because we wanted to do a 2-year look back at the moving the ready to drink beverages into the private sector. So the way our fiscal is July to July. So we would start July, right? We're starting 2 years. We won't finish 2 fiscals until June of 2024. So we needed 6 months to do the study so that you come back for the legislative session that January 2025. That's the reason why that was 2025. I think the reason we're trying to make to your point, Chair, you're trying to make at least an interim report for the direct to consumer shipping is because there's such an impetus to look at how we can find a path forward.
But I do hear Senator Brock's point in terms of getting at least something on all of these things at the same time. I mean, I wouldn't
Otherwise,
mind
you're
going.
going to have just an absolute divergence of both opinion and facts. And it all needs to come together once. And whatever that date may be, it may be a later date. I'm fine with that.
Right.
Well-
Let's make it 24 on the ready to drink. And then if whatever we have at that point, if people make the argument, we could use 1 more year's worth of data, then that next legislature will look at that and say, we'll ask for a follow-up report the following year. It's sort of like an interim. This might be an interim, but there is some value in touching base on all of these information, especially when a lot of the groups are the same. So if you can change that, Tucker, to the 25 one to 24, and I think we're good to go, except I don't think we talked about the.
Wait a minute, yeah,
did we?
sorry, Mr. Chair, may I?
Yep.
So Tucker, what language did you come up with in D, the privatization study? I'm sorry, on whether or not we should proceed? Did you add sort of to decide whether or not to proceed? To respond to the chair's request about making it, a recommendation on which way to go? What did you change in response to the chair's concern?
I have not changed anything yet because we were still walking through, but
Okay,
what I interpreted as the instruction was to make it neutral so that it doesn't seem like the intent of this is to direct JFO and DLL to recommend amending the state regulatory structures, but instead to come back with the right recommendation on whether the
exactly. I think if you just included a couple weathers in there, that would be good.
There's too much weather in Vermont, but
Yeah, that's true.
Tucker, we're going to vote on this now, and I will double check these technical corrections for the committee, but I haven't heard you say anything about festival permits. Have you? Or did I just space that out?
I have not gone to the festival permits yet. You were correct, but we did. Let me jump to the special event permit section here. Here we go. So this is where we landed for amending the section to achieve what the advocates brought up last week, and to not tinker so much with the section that it would go outside the bounds of what the department is looking to do with their enforcement and regulation of special events permits. So this is the only amendment in subdivision B1, clarifying that the permit holder can sell by the glass within the event boundaries. And what this accomplishes is it clarifies really that the special events permit holder can sell by the glass and the consumer can consume it within the event boundaries, perhaps not within the service area boundaries of that particular permit holder.
Yeah, while we were on, before we were live, the commissioner explained what was going on to us. So I think we have a good handle on this and it seems to do the trick.
One question that I have in looking at this vis-a-vis the privatization study is we've charged a JFO to do it in conjunction with the Department of Liquor and Lottery. I wonder if that gives us the impetus on independence and an independent view by someone who doesn't have a stake in the process driving this recommendation and decision-making. We've not put in here anything specific regarding, in effect, outside input. And I don't know, and I appreciate others' views as to whether we need to do something more specific to make that clear.
We chose
Now-
not,
For now, would it be sufficient to say that JFO may contract with independent consultants? I don't want to put money in right now.
I understand.
So that,
Consistent with the availability of funds, JFO may, et cetera.
Right. Yep. And then next year, people might fund it or whatever. But that'll get us over today's hurdle anyhow, if Tucker can put that in there. Okay, committee. I'm not going to try and do, sorry. I'm not going to try and do 210. We're going to, can people meet at 8:30 tomorrow morning? If not, we'll do 9 and we'll do 210 first thing in the morning. If we want to take it off pending entry to the calendar, we be able to do that. Sorry, I'm being paged.
Yeah, I have an 8:30 to 9 or an 8 to 9 tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do 210 tomorrow morning at 9. And let's just, can I get a motion on this version subject to these technical cleanups on 7:30 from someone? Senator Ballant, okay.
So moved.
Senator Ballant moves the draft that appeared on our screen on H730 to strike all amendment. Any further discussion?
I think we amend it, Tucker, it'll be draft 2.2.
Yes,
Correct.
that is correct. It will be 2.2.
So the motion is obviously to, amend it with draft 2.2.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, can I see a show of hands for who is in favor of the strike all amendment? Now that was pretty weak, Senator Clarkson, but we'll take it. Okay, it's 5-0-0. I'll report it for now, but I want to speak to the committee because there's going to be a lot of reporting on my part. So I will get it to Bloomer and we'll see you all at 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm sorry, I have a car waiting for me downstairs. Everybody, thank you so much.
So, Mr. Chair and
Yes.
Vice Chair, just make sure you see the email that's coming from Carolyn.